Everyone, I'd like to call to order the July 21st, 2026 meeting of the Bucks County Intermediate Unit School Directors. Okay, we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And just for information, that pledge was led by sequel participant Dan Romick. And Dan participates with both the Upper County Community Participation Group and a Central Bucks Community Group. Okay, could we get a roll call for attendance, please?
Yes, Mr. D'Angelo,
Here.
Ms. Sheehan, Ms. Foley,
Present.
Mr. Godikson,
Present.
Mr. Hollowell,
I am here.
Ms. Khan,
Here.
Mr. Morgan, Mr. Reimers, Ms. Stern, Mr. Traeger,
Here.
Ms. Walbeezer. Here. Mr. Waldorf,
Present.
Ms. Winters. So we have a quorum of 8.
Okay, thank you. And before we get started, we would like to introduce Tom Traeger, our newest member on the board. He represents Penn Ridge. Tom, would you like to give us a little information about yourself?
Sure. I just was elected to the Penn Ridge Board. I guess we were sworn in this past December. So excited to serve the board at Penn Ridge and then to be welcomed to the board here at the IU. Have 3 kids all in our home district, one of which had services through the Bucks IU early on and doing well. So I'm excited to be here.
Oh, listen, we're glad to have you. Welcome aboard, and it's particularly nice that one of your children is served by the IU, so have firsthand knowledge of the great things that we do here.
Yep.
Okay, there was no executive session tonight, and so for item 2, our public participation comments for agenda items only. Karen, you informed me there's nobody. Okay, so we can move on to item 3, which will be our consent agenda. And we're looking at items 4A through 8K. So does anyone need to have an item pulled for discussion or would like to vote on anything separately? Okay, I'll take that as a no. And so with that being said, if not, may I have a motion to approve consent agenda items 4A through 8K?
So moved.
Mr. Waldorf? Can I get a second?
Second.
Second?
Mr. Godikson.
Godikson? Okay, are any questions or concerns regarding items 4A through 8K?
I have a question.
Sure.
For the committee assignments, are those posted somewhere? 8A. Okay.
For item 8A, are those posted somewhere?
They're definitely they're definitely on the website, on Board Docs,
Updated tomorrow after it was approved.
but you'll see the PDF on Board Docs, right?
Oh, yeah, it's on there.
Yep.
Okay. You good? Okay. So any other further questions or concerns? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that motion's carried.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to our presentations and mini reports, we'll start off with Dr. Holler. We'll be giving our program service mini report on education for children and youth experiencing homelessness.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to draw your attention to there's either the mini report copy in your orange folder or it's item 9A on the agenda. And I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Mary Agnes DeSico, who will be sharing some information about our ECHIA program.
Thank you, Dr. Holler. It is my pleasure to present to you this evening on the ECHIA program. ECHIA being an acronym, for the Education of Children and Youth Experiencing Homelessness. Here we go. So the ECHIA program subscribes to a regional model. Here we see a map of that regional model. Oops, went a little too far there. New room, new technology. Okay. The ECHIA program subscribes to a regional model. Here we see a map of that regional model in Pennsylvania. Bucks County is in Region 8, along with Lehigh, Northampton, Delaware, and Montgomery counties. So we're looking at that bottom right portion of the map. Here we have a snapshot of the ECHIA program in the state of Pennsylvania, alongside the program as it's represented in Region 8. We see that 16.7% of students in Pennsylvania experiencing homelessness are in Region 8. During the 23-24 school year, which is the most recent published data released by Pennsylvania Department of Education, Pennsylvania identified 50,030 children and youth experiencing homelessness. These students represent every grade level, every geographic region, and every type of community across the Commonwealth. Homelessness is not limited to urban centers. It affects students in suburban, rural, and small-town communities as well. Bringing it closer to home, focusing on the Region 8 data, we see within Region 8, more than 8,300 children and youth were identified. Across Bucks, Montgomery, Lehigh, Northampton, and Delaware counties, local education agencies identified thousands of students experiencing housing instability. Please keep in mind that each number represented on this slide is a child whose education may be disrupted by frequent moves, transportation challenges, lack of basic necessities, or barriers to enrollment and participation. On the slide, we see reference to our youngest learners. One of the most significant findings is that 10,601 students from birth through kindergarten age were identified as experiencing homelessness statewide. This group includes children enrolled in Head Start, Early Head Start, pre-K counts, community preschool programs, and even students not connected quite yet to formal education settings. In other words, nearly 1 in 5 children identified through Pennsylvania's homeless education system has not yet reached first grade. On the next slide, we have a breakdown of Region 8 by county. We see that 12.7% of students identified as experiencing homelessness across Region 8 reside in Bucks County. Oops, a little touchy, or maybe it's me. Okay. The mission and goal of the ECHIA program is guided by the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Simply put, the program keeps the educational process as uninterrupted as possible for children and youth experiencing homelessness. Every school district across Region 8 has at least one homeless liaison that engages with the Bucks IU ECHIA team. In Bucks County, those liaisons are typically social workers or school administrators. Those liaisons are surveyed annually by the Bucks IU team to learn more about the needs that they're seeing in their respective districts. And then those expressed needs drive the use of funds. And I have a few examples of how the funds are utilized up on the screen here. Fuel cards and SEPTA passes to ensure transportation to and from school is uninterrupted, a resource directory in both electronic and hard copy version for to be able to access community resources and contacts, hygiene kits. Understandably, if students do not have access to basic hygiene items, they may feel uncomfortable coming to school and their families may feel uncomfortable sending them to school. Essentials closets was an activity we engaged in last year, reached out to our school districts. Many took advantage of kind of what I'd call a starter kit within their school districts, one or more clothing, essential items. And again, we were fiscally responsible, but also cognizant of students wanting to wear clothing and items that are kind of on trend with their classmates. We wanted them to feel that they weren't standing out while experiencing homelessness. School supplies, backpacks, summer programming and shelters. We just wrapped up some summer programming with our mobile Fab Lab, going out to shelters across Region 8, haircuts, and staff, covering the cost of staff. This slide provides more information on the grant itself. The ECHIA grant is a federal formula grant with a 5-year grant window. You can see there on the second row, we just wrapped up the 21 through 26 grant window, and we are moving into now, as of July 1, the 26 through 31 window. I am happy to share that the Bucks IU did apply and was awarded the grant, so we will be the fiscal agent moving forward, 26 through 31, representing the grant and supporting districts. Oops, looks like the top might have cut off a tiny bit. Region 8 numbers at a glance is what we see here. So 5 counties served, 69 school districts, 1,063 Bucks County students identified annually in the most recent data. The annual federal ECHIA allocation is $458,650, so just shy of that $500,000 mark. And we have 50,030 students identified as experiencing homelessness across the state of Pennsylvania. It should be noted that there has been year to year a steady increase in the identification of children and youth experiencing homelessness. And while this might be interpreted as concerning, the ECHIA team, the district liaisons, and the Pennsylvania Department of Education like to think of this perhaps as an encouraging trend. If the numbers are going up, that means that we are identifying more and more students. And so then we are ensuring that those identified students are getting the supports they need. We're finding the students. And in closing, I'd just like to note that the increase in identification is a testament to the hard work that the district liaisons are doing out in the school districts, charter schools, preschools, shelters, establishing relationships with families and trust with families so that they are willing to disclose their homeless status. And that leads, of course, to them getting the support they need. And that'll do it. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I do have a question, and
Sure.
the question is really, what defines homelessness?
That's a great question. So I will say that not having access to a fixed, adequate residence is key in the law. Additionally, there needs to be a causal event that initiates the homelessness status. So that would be something like a house fire or an eviction or a domestic incident in the home. It can be many things, but there needs to be a causal event that triggers it. That's the kind of the short version, but yeah.
Mary Agnes, I just
Yes.
have one.
Oh, sorry, I
okay.
just wanted to add to
Sure.
that, but the students, the fact that they had lived in Bucks County prior to the event is what qualifies them for this area, right?
For this area, right?
Yeah.
So that
In Bucks County.
the
that
school
they had
district
previously-
that they were previously attending, yes, would be connecting them to Bucks. Good question. Yeah.
I'm sorry for interrupting. My only question was, I'm looking at those numbers and you say, $458,000 for 1,000 kids. It's like, so it's about $458 a kid, right?
It is, but remembering that this federal grant is to supplement, not supplant what the districts are already providing on their own through other funding sources. So we are additional on top of. So,
Okay.
yeah, but you are correct. If we were to break down this supplemental funding stream.
And,
yes.
and as the number grows, then the federal money grows with it? or-
Yes, that's a
Okay.
great question. So each year, the school districts need to report the number of students identified, and the data from that year informs the following year. So we're kind of lagging 1 year behind in terms of the amounts, but the number of students identified during this school year will inform the allocation received for the next.
Yeah, and I guess my last question would be, is there does the IU work with, or is there a common protocol that each district follows? Like they all follow the same, or does it vary among districts?
Yeah, so that is why the ECHIA team is the fiscal agent, and we do more than just help them with reporting the fiscal pieces. We meet to discuss programming. So regularly, we are meeting with liaisons across the districts to hold regional meetings, lunch and learns, professional learnings. We're available as a resource to answer questions. And we have a direct line to PDE. So we're making sure we're getting their directives and making sure that all the districts are aware of the expectations to remain in compliance. compliance.
Yeah, because it's, you know, I know one of the big things that every district has to is attendance, right?
Yeah.
They have to make sure that they're getting kids to attend
Mhm.
and, my question is, it's got to be a difficult thing to identify. How do you identify a kid that's home? Like you said, there might be reluctance on their part to
Exactly.
step forward, but
Yeah.
even when they do, I mean, you know, there's no way they're getting it all, you know? I mean, every district.
Yep.
So you're saying the ECHIA steps in and with the IU works with every district to make sure that
Yep.
they're staying on top. And who do you do with the principals, the superintendents?
That's a great question as well. Typically, we're working with the homeless liaisons, and in our Bucks County area, the liaisons are typically school administrators or school social workers who take the lead. But we are in touch with many folks across the districts. Anyone who reaches out, we're a resource and will support, of course.
Thank you.
Yep.
That actually triggers another question for me. And that is, how do you define who is the home school district?
Yeah. Oh, who is the home school district?
Yeah.
So, well, sometimes there are best interest determination meetings for students when we have a student who is residing in one district originally and then displaced and now in another district. It is a conversation between the two districts, and it is a conversation including the family. So it's not, and it's a case by case, but typically, again, best interest, what's in the best interest of the students? You look at all of the circumstances, how long will this displacement be, et cetera, et cetera. It's very layered, but it's a great question. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Mary Agnes.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to our technical services mini report, Dr. Hertwig.
Good evening. I'd like to draw your attention to item 9B on the agenda, the Technology Services Mini Report. And you have a copy of that in your packet. And I'd like to invite CC Witt, our Program Director of Technology Services, to the podium where he will help bring the mini report to life for you a little bit. No pressure.
Oh, thanks, Jen. As Jen noted in your red folder, you'll find the 25-26 Technology Mini Report. I'll just quickly highlight a few things, bring a couple things to life. One highlight this year, we've really upskilled our team. A great example of that is our data lake. So 2+ years ago, we started on this data lake journey, had an external vendor kind of help us build it. Since that time, we basically become fully self-sufficient with our small team. Essentially 1.5 people are basically self-sufficient in building the data lake, growing the data lake, and sustaining it. So very excited about that, particularly proud of that small team. I want to note our paper email processes. We continue to evolve into our digital platform. Introduced this last year to the success of about a few dozen processes. I looked today, we're well over 30 processes. So it goes without saying the user experience is much better. We've taken things from paper, from email, and actually created a digital platform for that. Creates accountability, adds governance. So basically very proud of that. It's most important about that platform. I mean, technology should be enabling, right? So of those 30 some odd processes, tech has probably added a piece in half of them, meaning departments, analysts, and those departments are actually in there helping themselves. They're the ones who know where the processes need to go, how they fit, and they're creating themselves. So it's a great example of technology enabling people and processes to do their job better. Finally, I'd like to mention our technology partnerships. We used to call it external services. It's essentially the work we do for you all, right? So it's our technology relationships, our consulting, our software consortiums that we bring to each individual district. We're by no means a sales organization, but the last year has been a record year in terms of engagements, right? Good engagements, consulting, software consortiums, and just overall collaboration. So been a very great year in that regard. Lastly, I would like to mention, we spent a lot of time upgrading equipment. So all our AV rooms, all our conference rooms are getting new projectors. The mics sound great. I didn't hear, I had one compliment already, but the projectors, the actual lights, way better. And those boards obviously are new. Those boards actually break out to where a presenter can be here and you can have a breakout room where people are actually projecting to the TV. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of improvement in that area. So a lot of work going in there. Happy to answer any questions. I'm coaching my daughter's softball in Ocean City, Maryland in 13 hours. So eager to hit the road, but happy to stay here and answer any questions.
Anyone?
What's her batting average?
She's had a down year. I mean, she's a 13-year-old playing with 14-year-olds, so
Okay.
yeah, 300.
That'll only make her better.
Yes. And next year, I was telling Jen, next year we'll dominate. This year, we're going to get spanked pretty good, but it happens.
Well, listen, before we let you go, I just want to say, you guys and your team, you've built a great team. Guys over there, you guys do great work. You've done such a good job here. I've been to Everett. I've been to Pearl Buck. I've been up Lower South. And then when I go into our school, I see that we're starting to get caught up. We're seeing the good things that you do. And we appreciate that you share the best practices and the connectivity and just the things, because again, I know in Bristol, we basically have two people doing it, and they're both really top shelf guys, but for you to cut through a lot of the work for them to let them know that this is the new projectors, all the things that are really helping to gain efficiencies. It's a big component of every district's budget, but it's a critical, and I just want to say thank you for the great job you've done since you've been here at CC.
Yeah, I would say in terms of, the district, all our teams are small, right? So you don't do anything alone anymore. Whether it's cyber, whether it's collaborating, whether it's getting here monthly, whether it's scrambling in the middle of the night, helping each other out. So we don't do anything alone. It's great collaboration.
We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, special ed year in review, Dr. Greeny.
Good evening, everyone. In your orange folder or on board docs under letter 9C or number 9C is the special ed mini report. And in special education, we've had a busy year this year. 25-26 was very active for us. And tonight I have two of my colleagues, Dr. Meisler and Ms. Quick, here to provide some highlighted updates for us.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Gina Meisler. I'm the Program Director for Related Services. I'm happy to talk to you a bit about our year in special education. A significant accomplishment this year has been the continued expansion of our Bucks IU special education programming. As you're all aware, we successfully opened a new center at Pearl Buck Elementary, which increased our capacity to serve students, particularly in lower to mid county. And planning is already underway for future expansion, including some programming at Bucks County Community College Newtown campus, as well as the plans for the Johnsville site Early Learning Center. We also continue to work recruiting and retaining highly qualified professionals. This is a major priority for us. And in close partnership with our amazing human resources team, we have enhanced recruitment strategies, conducted targeted hiring events. We continue to strengthen university partnerships, and we have improved our onboarding processes for new employees, including the expansion of the paraeducator onboarding, so that they are ready to hit the ground running when they get to that classroom. We also continue to ensure that our instructional staff met highly qualified requirements and certification expectations, all while continuing to support and expand our apprenticeship programs. So it's a big push for us. And then throughout the year, the special education division continued to strengthen our internal systems so that we can support efficient and high quality service delivery. We work collaboratively with all of the other divisions, human resources, the business office, I'm going to get everyone in operations, safety and security, and facilities and technology, and our student data team. We've been working really hard to develop standardized procedures and improve our operational processes so that we have consistency across programs. I'll kick it over to Mrs. Quick.
As Gina was reading all that and I was to go next in my head, I'm thinking, but wait, there's more, and there is more. So from the lens of safety and security, we've also been focused on enhancing our emergency preparedness and communication for our countywide systems at all of our locations from upper all the way down to lower county. As you can imagine, as Gina had shared about the opening of our upcoming new sites, there's been very strong cross-divisional collaboration in support of Pearl Buck, our new Johnsville site, which will be the new Middle Bucks Early Learning Center, and our upcoming expansion at Bucks County Community College, which we are incredibly excited for. Professional learning also remained a cornerstone throughout the year. Our special education division, in collaboration with programs and services, has been actively planning a robust opening week. We've been strengthening our orientation process for new employees and expanding opportunities for supervisory professional development as well. The year-long accomplishments really truly reflect the dedication and collaborative efforts of our division, along with all of the divisions across the IU. And it really speaks to our commitment to providing exceptional services that meet the evolving needs of our students, families, and school districts across the county. So we just wanted to take a minute to see if you had any questions about the work we do in special ed and all of the upcoming projects.
Anyone? I'd just like to say to all of your team, Lenny, Rachel, Karen. I think, who else is not, she's not here tonight, is Jen.
Erin, Rosanna.
Jen,
Yes,
Erin,
and
Rosanna.
Rosanna.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, what you've done this year is really been not short of incredible. And I look at this picture of Carl Buck. And I remember that maybe less than a year, maybe last January in 2025, it was an empty school that needed to be upgraded, needed so much work. And the fact that it's full and the fact that our programming team has been able to kind of migrate and balance what was at Everett and all within the space of one school year.
Yeah.
I mean, where else could you ever see that done? But it's a tribute to y'all. And I guess my other question is, so where do we stand at Johnsville?
It looks great. Peter, do you want to jump up real quick? Nothing like putting Peter on the spot. Though I think you could talk about Johnsville all day. For Mr. Trogger, for your benefit, Johnsville is an early learning center that we're opening near the Costco in Warminster, just to give it a place in your mind. It's for 3 to 5 year olds in Head Start, pre-K counts, and early intervention. It's currently located in a facility down the street. This is a property we purchased through a building authority and are renovating, and so it'll be essentially state-of-the-art brand new on September 1st. Peter?
Yeah, we're about 3 weeks away from taking substantial completion. So right now we have most of the ceilings in, most of the floorings in, the walls are all in, the plumbing, the electrical. The HVAC is being turned on later this week, and we're ready to go. We're just putting the finishing touches on, cleaning it up, and we'll move in.
You sort of had an initial sneak peek tour on Monday, right? With some of the teachers, things like that? Or program administrators?
Yeah, it was program staff. And the funny thing is, it still looks like a construction site, but if you visit in a week or two, like this is the point where it's really going to start changing. They start putting all the finishing touches in and start really, we're starting to wax the floors on Thursday. So it's going to be ready to go.
Every week I go and I send a picture to the Vision House. A couple months ago, look, there's walls. And then it's, look, they're painted. Look, there's a floor. And then I got really excited last week because there was tile in the bathroom. I'm like, look, everybody, there's tile in the bathroom. And there was furniture. So it's kind of cool to watch it. If you stick around the IU long enough, you know that I think we've opened a building every year. So we're sort of used to it. We're just not used to a total gut and build up.
Yeah, this one was a little more extensive than we've done. We've usually take old school buildings and kind of rehab them into better school buildings, but this one was an office that we turned into classrooms. So
it's beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's a good testament too, because again, with Buck, that was a whole different thing. But what I will say is lots of times people say, well, what's the IU? Like, what does the IU? Many of you may go back to your boards and say, well, look at this, we're paying they look at the budget line item, or they look and they say, well, what are we paying the IU? But think about it. You don't open sites with 28 special education classrooms with staff, with meeting all the code requirements of safety. It's in response to your districts. So think about it. We opened up a facility when we first went to Buck and we walked through it. And I'm saying to Dr. Hoffman, well, what do you think? Like in a year, how many classes maybe? And he's like, maybe 6 or 7. And here we are a year later and almost a full school year of having 28 full classrooms. And if we can do that in 1 year, that's our goal, and what makes, our motivation is to help the school districts. And so by doing that in 1 year, we've saved every school district that sends a kid there a pretty significant amount of money that they would have had to try to do themselves and would have been unable to do them, I'm not saying that in a bad way, because it's schools, districts are there to educate kids, right? They're not there to set up programs. And so my hat's off to each and every one of you guys. And the only bad thing is, so now that Pearl Buck and the things that you did at Everett now is going to be compared with Johnsville Road. So you got a big shoes to fill to make Johnsville just as successful as you've done here over the last year. So again, my hat's off to you, and I applaud each and everything.
Don't go anywhere just yet. I'm going to interject real quick. A few months ago, we had conversations about the shortage with teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing. And we actually started an advocacy committee to talk about some of these things. Prior to those conversations, we had some things that were well underway. But actually, this board agenda, you guys approved just about, a half an hour ago, something that Gina's dancing and celebrating right now.
Happy. Can I tell everybody?
Can you just for I know that you all saw it when you reviewed the agenda, but it was item 8I, and it's the memorandum of understanding with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit and the Pennsylvania Western University, AKA Penn West. Something that Jen Roston, our supervisor of apprenticeships, put together in partnership with Dr. Meisler, Dr. Graney, et cetera. So good that another IU sort of joined with us.
Yep.
And there's power in numbers, not only in Bucks County, but across the state. Gina, can you just share what 8I is?
Yes, so we just received expedited approval from the Pennsylvania Apprenticeship Council for a teacher of the deaf apprenticeship. Jen Rawson is our supervisor of apprenticeship programs. If you have not met her or talked to her,
She's presented to the board.
she's amazing. And so she and I had started talking, actually, it was at a conference in December of 2024 about developing a teacher of the deaf apprenticeship. We got underway in spring of 25, really focused on the work. And the big problem that we had was a university partner. There are not many schools that offer this program, and they have to essentially develop their program. The university has to create something that works for a working apprentice. And Penn West had an interest in that time in developing an apprenticeship program. Jen really supported Penn West in getting there, and they were approved for their own sponsorship of an apprenticeship program. And then a month later, we took it to the apprenticeship board. Montgomery County Intermediate Unit was so excited at the possibility that they asked to partner with us. So for the first time, the Bucks IU is doing a group sponsorship of an apprenticeship program. And it's really exciting. I mean, there are the numbers of folks being certified in this area, as well as teacher of the visually impaired, is, I think Sarah Ryden told me it was like 7 last year in the whole state. And we're all fighting for the same people. So partnering with MCIU makes sense, because what has historically happened is we hire someone, they steal them from us, and then we do the reverse, and we all kind of just bounce around the same people. So working together to increase the pool it's really exciting. It's a great development. The posting's going up soon. We intend to have the apprentices start in January. It's a pretty great opportunity. If you have it is a post-bac, you do need a bachelor's degree, but it doesn't have to be in education, and it doesn't have to have anything to do with supporting students with hearing impairment. And in 2 years' time, you'll be a fully certified teacher of the deaf. So I speak for myself, I am pumped. I'm really, really excited about it. May I share our other good news related to hearing support programs? So the Pennsylvania Department of Ed has an Attract, Prepare, Retain program that is intended to recruit to difficult to fill positions, and related are the sign language interpreters, also an incredibly difficult position to staff. So They have created a stipend for interpreter interns that comes along with a really structured mentoring program through the University of Utah. We applied for it. We were the first in the state to be approved. So we are also going to be, you'll see that posting go up very soon as well. So we're excited at these new opportunities to get folks into these seats because there's a pretty desperate need. So thanks for letting me share the good news.
Thank you both. Dr. Randy, thank you.
And you know what's great about that is all the good things that you've done and accomplished this year with all, and you're still looking for gaps, right? Looking. And again, I may be repetitive, but this is something that is giving value. It's not to the IU, it's to all of the member districts, right? And so it's something that individually you guys, our district could never afford to do that, right? And we're in the same way. There's just not enough of teachers and for hearing or speech impaired. And by saying, we've done this, what's next? So it's that entrepreneurial spirit that Dr. Hoffman kind of and his team are constantly looking for the gaps, okay, we did this. Now, what else can we do? And that's why the IU is the best. So again, thank you all so much.
Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo.
Okay, Dr. Hoffman, it's I see you have a new name.
You like this? So with Robin's retirement comes new opportunities. Rebecca Smith. Rebecca now has a Rebecca that works for her. So there's two Rebeccas and they work within 30 feet of each other, probably more like 10 feet. We've rebranded Also News as the Everyday Impact. And so hopefully you like the new branding, you'll like the new fonts, the new focus on pictures rather than graphics, and then the reorganization into student programs, adult programs, professional learning, etc. I encourage you to take a look. Of course, as always, these are many of the stories that we've seen in our social media posts. So like us on Facebook, like us on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. You'll be able to see these things live and retweet and help us or repost or reshare, whatever the phrases are these days, to get the word out. Sometimes someone seeing one of these programs gives them an idea. They reach out to the IU. They say, oh, this is great, but could you do it a little differently for us? And we always say, of course. So that's the everyday impact being made by Bucks IU team members across Bucks County and southeastern Pennsylvania every single day. Also, you have your press releases related to our retirees, which you obviously were central to celebrating at a recent board meeting, as well as a press release, which was picked up by just about every publication. The 3 superintendent searches that the Bucks IU was leading in Lower Bucks County, in Bristol Borough, Morrisville, and in Bensalem. In the personnel agenda items, there were a couple of important actions that you approved tonight. There's always important actions, but just 3 I'm going to mention quickly. Nicole Borland, longtime member of the Intermediate Unit Administrative Team, her retirement is in the board packet. So I believe we have Nicole until December. She's not here with us to congratulate her, but you'll see her again. With, growth and opportunities comes new employees. We're very excited to welcome an employee back home to the Intermediate Unit. Dr. Graney, would you like to take over from here to welcome Shannon back?
Sure. Tonight on the agenda, you approved the appointment of Shannon McMahon, who's with us this evening, as the supervisor of IDEA. Shannon was an employee at the IU several years ago, serving as a consultant in our programs and a program and training specialist. She since went on to support some school districts, and most recently or currently is in the Bensalem School District. So we're excited that Shannon is going to be coming back to work with us and support the districts and the professional development that happens through the special ed lens. And Shannon's anticipated start date is going to be somewhere around mid-September. We're working on those final details right now, and we're excited that she's going to be coming back home. And welcome, Shannon. Welcome back.
You also approved a contract with Paula Harlan's company to provide business office support to the Intermediate Unit over several days, starting as soon as tomorrow. The reason we're bringing Paula back home is because her protege, right? We'll call you that. Allison is, as you obviously know, she's accepted a really important job at Westchester University. We're very excited for you. We're thrilled for you. We know that your impact will only expand at a place like Westchester, the largest of the state schools. And we hire a lot of folks from Westchester. And so We are honored that you spent your formative years administratively with the intermediate unit. And we are thrilled for you and the opportunities that Westchester will benefit from thanks to your leadership in the years to come. So if you would all join me in thanking Allison for her contributions to the IU.
Okay, so now we'll move on to informational items, and that starts off with a legislative report by Rebecca.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to put on my glasses because there's a lot to talk to you about this evening. Well, we have a budget, so that's the good news. It was only 12 days late this year. It was signed on July 12th by Governor Shapiro, $50.85 billion package. So that was the final spend number. It is $750 million, or a 1.5% increase over the 2025 budget. Actually, when you get past some of the delayed payments from 25-26 and some of the accounting maneuvers that they're going to do to 25-26 funds, it's a 3.7% increase. So while the budget was 12 days late, the vote in support was really overwhelming and very bipartisan. House Bill 2400 was the final appropriation bill that contains all the budget line item numbers. That was approved by a vote of 167 to 35 in the House and 44 to 6 in the Senate. House Bill 1505, which was the Omnibus School Code Bill, that accompanied the budget, was approved by an overwhelming vote of 172 to 30 in the House and 45 to 5 in the Senate. And when I looked at the vote counts of who opposed, there were it was different people and it wasn't the same people in the House and Senate, and different people for various different reasons. But here are the key important points. And if you are following along, this is item 10A in your board doc agenda, and it's the middle of the page 1 for the hard copy report. There are no new taxes. There are no other new revenue sources either. As you know, that was one of the sticking points of the budget spend number and paying for the governor's proposed budget back in February. The state's nearly $8 billion rainy day fund is preserved. No money was taken from the rainy day fund to fund this budget. More than 500 million of special funds are being taken from the 25-26 budget using these accounting maneuvers to transfer unused funds from previous budgets of certain departments, and then delaying 1.3 billion in payments to Medicaid managed care organizations to help fund the budget. The good news is there's 973.3 million allocated for Pennsylvania's education system. As important as to what's in the budget, I think it's equally important to talk about all the things we discussed from February through June and what did not make it into the final budget. First off, the bell-to-bell mobile device policy that we spent a lot of time speaking about, never made it. Even though the House had approved the House Pass version of bell-to-bell mobile device and the Senate approved their version, there was no final language that made it into the Omnibus School Code Bill. Skilled games. You know, the Supreme Court, and we talked about this last month, there was a decision from the Supreme Court giving the General Assembly 120 days to act on skilled games. And there was nothing in the budget about skilled games. So Governor Shapiro has already stated that if the General Assembly fails to act on skilled games this fall, and I think there's an October 5th deadline, if I'm not mistaken, he's already empowered the Pennsylvania State Police to be prepared to enforce the Supreme Court's decision, and they will have the authority to remove more than 80,000 skilled game terminals from unlicensed locations across the state. And an unlicensed location is any place that is not licensed as a casino. Okay. The other part of the budget that nothing's happened on is the federal voucher program. So the decision to opt into the federal school choice voucher program rests solely with the governor. It does not require any action by the General Assembly. However, there were several members really placing pressure on the governor during the state budget negotiations to join this federal program. Pennsylvania has until January 1 to join when the program begins. This program would provide a $1,700 federal tax credit for donations to school scholarship organizations. It's possible that we may have a decision from the governor sometime this fall or before January 1 about whether or not Pennsylvania will opt into this program. And then finally, there was no minimum wage increase. So all of those components did not make it into the budget.
Rebecca, can I
Yes.
question you on the skilled games?
Yes.
So it says the Supreme Court gave the Assembly 20 days to act and nothing was, so they were debating on whether or not to tax those games. Is that correct?
Well, the Supreme Court decision said that skilled games are no different than the games that are in a casino, like the slot machines in the casino, right? And so they fall under the same requirement where they need to be licensed as a casino. And once they're licensed, then they do meet that threshold to be taxed. And there's been some attempts to negotiate new rules for skilled game terminals that are in bars and restaurants and, Wawa or wherever they are. And maybe define them in a way where they could be taxed lesser. The law is just silent on them right now. And the Supreme Court said, absent the legislature enacting a law on these skilled game terminals, then they are going to be treated the same way you treat your slot machines at a casino. And so they'd be taxed the same way. And so the authority that the governor has to remove them or have the state police remove them is the fact that most of these locations where these skilled games are not licensed casinos.
Well, so my question is, they've been going back and forth and so what this is saying is, well, they're not going to take any action. And so then the state is going to spend resources to go to these places to seize all these, right? And so my question is, doesn't this kind of indicate that there's going to be something done to get, so I don't think that they won't do anything. And so there's going to be some kind of additional revenue that's gained from this. They're just hashing over it. And I don't believe that they're going to send the state police to go get all these machines, right? At some point, wouldn't the owners of the machines even capitulate and say, we'll pay 10% or 15%?
Well, there's no law on this right now. There's nothing on the books about it. And that's I think the governor's, the threat that the governor made was to the legislature, if you don't do something by the deadline date, by the October deadline date, then I am authorizing the state police to go and seize these machines because they will be considered to be illegal.
And in your previous report from last month, I believe the numbers they were throwing around is they could get anywhere from 300 million to almost $1 billion in revenue if they tax
Correct.
these things, right?
Depending on the tax rate.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's
So-
the madness.
So everyone was expecting this to be part of the budget to help close that spend, that budget gap, that spend number, and it wasn't. But they can still act. They've got time till October. All right, in the middle of page 2, overall funding, education funding allocations. So the budget fully funds the government's request for the third installment of the adequacy and tax equity payments as required under the Supreme Court case regarding the constitutional obligation of the state to fund public schools. So that's a $565 million increase. There's a $58 million increase for basic education funding, including $8 million in supplemental BEF payments to 4 school districts, including the borough of Morrisville and Bucks County, who met certain limited requirements. 16 school districts actually receive less funds than in 25-26, including Penridge School District and Bucks County. For special you can raise your hand, Mr. D'Angelo, for special education funding. There's $55 million increase for special education funding with $5 million set aside for extraordinary expenses to Philadelphia charter schools. 33 school districts are receiving less funds than in 25-26, including Bristol Borough, Borough of Morrisville, and Penridge school districts in Bucks County. $10 million increase in career and technical education, an additional $59 million in Ready to Learn funding. All 500 school districts at a minimum will receive another $50,000 in Ready to Learn adequacy or tax equity funding. But there continue to be the same limitations on the use of Act 1 exceptions for school districts who receive the adequacy supplement or the tax supplement as they prepare the 27-28 budgets. Maintain same level of funding, $125 million for school facilities. There's $25 million for a solar for schools set aside. There's continued moratorium on PlanCon until July 1, 2027. Another $100 million for school safety and mental health grants, with an additional 75% of any money that has not yet been spent by PCCD on school safety grants to be able to be used this year. School districts, once again, are eligible to receive $100,000 each. Charter schools, CTCs, and IUs will receive $70,000 each. Those grant applications are to open within 45 days of July 12th, and the same Tier 1 baseline criteria remains a priority for the grant submissions. And then there's a $41 million increase for early intervention ages 3 to 5, and an additional $3.8 million for the state pre-K counts program. Intermediate units are now eligible for providers for pre-K counts. That doesn't really apply to our IU because our eligibility to run pre-K counts was because we are a federal Head Start grantee. And that was already given to IUs who were federal Head Start grantees. At the top of page 3, I just noticed that I have a typo and I apologize. Pre-K counts now may offer 180 days or 900 instructional hours for full day programs and 450 hours for half day programs. Then those of you who are interested in how this, the funding formula for the basic education funding, the special education funding, and the Ready to Learn funds affect your particular school districts in Bucks County, I copied those tables for you on page 3 and on page 4. I also gave you a direct link to those tables. It's on the PDE website, so you can look them up yourself. There's a whole narrative on how they did all of these formulas. And while I gave you a summary spreadsheet, there is a more involved spreadsheet that goes through your allocations as to how you reach these bottom line dollars. So I'm not going to go through any of that there, but you can see the individual impact on your school districts on page 3 and at the top of page 4. So I'll now go through details on the Omnibus School Code Bill. Now, you know, this bill is really big. I've got 13 pages here for you. I'm not going to read all of it, but I will tell you what's in the bill, and then what you're interested in. I gave you summary details from the legislation itself. And I did this in the order that it's in the bill, and the order makes no sense. So it's not my order. This is the order of the legislation. The bill includes a standardized testing study, basically to study whether it makes more sense to use the ACT, the SAT, or some other exam instead of PSSAs or Keystone exams, okay? Page 5, lead testing. The legislature did fix the reinterpretation of administrative lead levels that caused a lot of controversy a few months ago. The lead threshold is no longer tied to the EPA goal of 0. It has now been increased to 0.005 milligrams per liter, which is the same as bottled water, and it's similar to other states. School facilities, every school district needs to do an individual public school facility inventory. And I gave you a summary of what data will be requested in that inventory. That information has to be collected prior to December 21st, 2027, and every 5 years thereafter. There were updates made for continuing professional education for school and system leaders. That language basically says that anyone who is working under a commission qualification letter must now use the same professional development as any other certificated professional in the state. So that's your Act 45, 48 hours, et cetera. I'm now on page 6. PDE will continue the classroom monitor program and for another 3 years through June 30th, 2029. It's pretty much going to continue under the same parameters that were put in place previously. Cyber charter residency verification. This is a big shift. The responsibility will now shift to cyber charters to obtain proof of residency from their families. And then cyber charters must notify parents between July 1 and September 15th to provide that proof of residency. And then cyber charters must provide proof of residency to school districts by October 15th. School districts can withhold payment now, and PDE cannot deduct those payments from any state subsidy for any students who have not provided residency verification by the October 15th deadline. That's a really big request that public school districts have been asking for, and so it shifts that burden to cyber charters. Similarly, the burden shifts to cyber charters on truancy changes. Now, cyber charters must confirm with the student's prior school entity that the student is not habitually truant. On page 7, if you're following along with me, there is now an established enhancement to the school district procedure for truant students. The language that was discussed earlier in the year about cyber charter wellness check-ins now has also been updated, and it applies not only to cyber charter schools, but to any in-district charter school. And it requires school districts and cyber charter schools to conduct wellness checks, meaning that at least once a week, a teacher, a school administrator, or some other designated official has to see the student online and verify their wellness, okay? Or they can do it in person as well. But that weekly check-in is, there's now a lot of details about how to do that. And if by chance you are not able to see that student online, if the student just doesn't turn the camera on, or if the student just doesn't show up, then there are requirements in place to notify the parents and then also go and do an in-person check-in. I'm going to move on to page 8. There, under school safety, every school district will need to update their policy relating to bullying and cyberbullying. The policy must establish parameters around bullying and cyberbullying and notifying parents immediately when school districts become aware of a bullying or a cyberbullying incident. They also added some language about incidents involving AI-generated or modified media images. So I know I attended the PSBA School Solicitor Conference last week, and I know PSBA, those of you who participate in their policy services, they are already working on model template policy updates. So I'm sure most school districts will be working on this, and the IU will be working on this in the coming months to make sure our policies are in compliance. At the bottom of page 8, school mapping services, there is a whole provision on allowing school entities to use state money for school mapping services and then making sure you coordinate those maps with your local law enforcement agency that you have an MOU with. And a reminder, the legislature also made it clear that any of these maps that you do put in place and any of the data used for them are not subject to the right to know law. Now on page 9, health services. So every school district must give each child of school age a measurement of height and weight by a school nurse or other healthcare practitioner who will confidentially collect the information and will track the student's growth over time. A student can be exempt from this collection of data if the student's parent or guardian request it. And a school district may not deliver this information, which is considered to be BMI, to either the student or the student's parent guardian unless it's requested by the parent guardian in writing. In that same vein, under physical education, any physical education instruction cannot be based on a calculation of body mass index that is prohibited. And any instruction that requires the collection of a student's height and weight measurement shall be conducted in a manner that protects student confidentiality. There's also an eating disorder awareness and education provision over on page 10. If a school district decides to implement later school start times, they are now able to use funding from BEF, SEF, pupil or non-public transportation or any undesignated fund balance to help pay for school studies on later school start times. Regarding flexible instructional days, there's also a change for the 26-27 school year. Public school entities must submit the following information to PDE for each school building, not just the overall district, but each school building. And I have it listed there, the number of flexible instructional days used. All of this must be submitted by July 31st, 2027. Okay. Recess periods. This is another big change. For kindergarten through 5th grade, you must provide at least 30 minutes of recess during each school day for full day kindergarten through grade 5, and at least 15 minutes of recess during each school day for half day kindergarten. You may not reduce a student's lunchtime in order to provide this recess period. You can still withhold recess as a disciplinary measure. You may not reduce instructional time in subjects that are not assessed by a state assessment to provide recess unless instructional time is also proportionally reduced in those state assessment subject areas. When possible, recess is supposed to be outside and it may not include electronic devices. It does provide school districts with flexibility to reduce the amount of time if the starting time or dismissal time of a school day is delayed or adjusted as a result. I'm now on page 11. There's a whole provision on providing social media literacy education. More flexibility was given to our career technical centers in order to administer the NOCTI exam. Right now, I understand the NOCTI exam is administered at the end of the 12th grade year. Career technical centers now have the flexibility to implement that to administer that whenever the student finishes the program. So if they finish earlier than 12th grade, they can take the NOCTI at that time. The goal of that is to free up space in career technical center programs. Okay. All right, I'm now at the top of page 12. So all of that stuff that didn't get done, skilled games, minimum wage, the other things I mentioned to you, the bell-to-bell mobile device policy, the decision on the federal voucher program, all of that stuff that didn't get done could be done in the fall. And we see the fall session days, and there's not a lot of them. So I gave you the House session schedule. They're in session 4 days in September. They're in session 6 days in October and 2 days in November. Senate's in session even less, 3 days in September, 6 days in October, and 2 days in November. So I wouldn't count on a lot getting done in the fall. I do think, Mr. D'Angelo, to your question, skilled games is probably at the top of the list of what has to get done. Okay. And then finally, I wanted to call attention to the federal E-rate program. There is a really great resource that was put together by the Pennsylvania Digital Trust Hub, which was led by the Pennsylvania Association of Intermediate Units, the Pennsylvania Association of School Administrators, the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials, and the Pennsylvania Association for Educational Communications and Technology. This is an interactive advocacy website so that folks across the Commonwealth can understand the impact of the notice of proposed rulemaking issued by the FCC on E-rate and what it may mean for your own school district and your own region. And if you recall, I talked to you about this last month, but this notice of proposed rulemaking includes proposals such as just eliminating the federal E-rate program, or restricting E-rate eligibility to rural schools only, or excluding pre-K and Head Start programs from E-rate funds, or penalizing or removing funds for the Children's Internet Protection Act compliance. Also, there's thoughts that they may require participation to include limits on student screen time, expanded filtering, social media bans, and mandatory digital literacy courses. So this advocacy website was put together with help from the Allegheny Intermediate Unit and each of the other 28 intermediate units across the state. I gave you the link to the website. I gave you the link to the specific information on Bucks County, and I copied some of it for you so you could understand for Bucks County schools what it would mean if the federal E-rate program was eliminated. $19.3 million has been provided to Bucks County schools through the federal E-rate program over the past decade. $1.8 million is committed to the county almost every year. It impacts all 13 public school districts funded, plus the Bucks IU operated regional wide area network, which serves 18 school entities in Bucks County. Funding for E-rate in our county covers connectivity such as fiber, internet access, wide area circuits, as well as Wi-Fi access points inside each county school building, such as switches and the internal cabling, so that the network can reach every classroom and every student. 99% of the funding in Bucks County serves non-rural schools. So a rural-only rule would significantly impact the entire county. And then finally, 83,000 public school students rely daily on the Bucks County administered wide area network in order to have access to the internet in their school buildings. So if you get a chance, go to that website. The link is there. You can just click on it. At the very bottom of the website, they make it very easy for you to sign a petition and send a letter to the FCC saying, please don't do this because of its impact on our school districts. And that's it for me. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Anyone else? I just have a couple things. So I'm looking at you, and thank you. This is such a really good comprehensive report. I hope each and every one of you make sure that you get it back to other members of your board. Because like I look at this and I see Bucks County on page 3, the allocation for special education funding. And like I look at Bristol Borough, Mooresville, and Penridge actually lost money. And again, I would speak for all of us, but I'll speak for Bristol Borough directly. In 25-26 budget, our budget for special ed went up by almost a $500,000, it went up. So how do we get $4,000 less? So that's my question. And I guess my real, and I'm not harping on you, I'm just speaking as the devil's advocate, right? But my first question is, whatever happened to hold harmless? Every time that it comes to them having to give school districts money, their answer is, well, we can't do it because we can't take money away from somebody. Yet in a school district like Bristol Borough, which our special ed costs are increasing exponentially and legitimately, how could a formula kick out that we get less? And Marshall even worse, and Penridge, they look, how could that not be zero decrease? So that's one of the things that I'm looking at. And then again, Rebecca, you and I have talked about this on a couple of occasions, and hopefully when they meet in November or September, that maybe they can shake some of that money for skilled games and come up with some supplementals. But, and again, on page 4, the same thing. I mean, so stop me if I read this wrong, but what it said is that, so in other words, if you get $50,000 in RTL adequacy supplements, right? But you can't get it if you raise your taxes above the Act 1 index. So if you raise your taxes using the exception under the Act 1 index, then you wouldn't get any of that money. And my question was, why wouldn't you get it on top of that?
So I think if you get more than 50,000, and maybe Allison, more because you've been on these calls, but I think if you get more than 50,000, which every district gets a minimum of 50, but if you get more than 50,000 under the adequacy supplement or the tax equity supplement, then a district is prohibited from taking Act 1 exceptions. Is that correct, Allison?
Yep, you have it exactly
Oh,
correct.
great.
Okay,
Thank
okay.
you.
So I stand corrected, but my point still is, if you look at that list, so a lot of the other districts that are, again, Bristol Borough gets $250,000, but our adequacy amount was over $2 million. So they meter it out $250,000 at a time, but the adequacy is saying you're $2.2 million short every year. So again, we talked about this earlier. It looks like they're trying to say, well, if we give you 250,000 a year, there's your 2.5 million. But it's not giving you a percentage of it every year. That's 2.5 million every year that we're inadequately funded. So I mean, that's something that we do have to take that up with our, maybe we'll take it up on our advocacy team when we get a chance to talk to some of our legislators, and hopefully they can shake some of that money through. But like I said, this is a great report. I hope each and every one of you get it back to everyone on your board or people that really want to look at it, because it's got a lot of good things in it.
Mr. Trauger, just for your information, tomorrow Michelle will send every electronic document that we have to your email. And so you can forward that to your board secretary. They can post it on the IU report. It's an easy way. You don't have to go on our website and download everything. You'll get it tomorrow.
Michelle, can you, before you send that out, can you, on page 3 at the top, instead of 1,800 days, will you make that 180, please? That was a typo.
You heard it here. Rebecca's trying to extend the school year
Yeah, I
to
know.
1,800 days per year.
I'm going to get a lot of comments on social media. Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to item 11, which is an executive session that we did not have. And so move on to item 12. Was there any old business to discuss? Anyone on the phone or in the room? Anyone? No? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Item 13, any new business? Anyone? Again, I would just like to take a minute to give great thanks to Allison for tremendous job. And when we talked about all the things that we've done, and before we embark on anything, I'm sure Dr. Hoffman calls her and this is what we want to do. How do we do it? where's the money coming from? How do we do it? And I would say over the last 3 years, how long have you been back? Like 3 years or?
I've been in this role for 4 years.
Okay, so over the last 4 years, we've seen our budget, we've seen us do more and more things, again, to serve our districts. And at our March meeting, Karen, I think this was your report. So Karen gave us some great data on the number of instructional certificates that have been issued, instructional 1, instructional 2. So in 2013, there were 25,728 instructional 1 certificates and 14,000 instructional 2. So that's basically 40,000 teachers, right? Is that a good way to put it, or pretty close?
You could approximate that, yeah.
Yes, okay. And then at that time, the number of teachers that are leaving the profession, and Karen, just to get it clear, that could be probably it was most teachers retiring, right? Some of them people that were fed up or wanted to go another way, but so you had 40,000 new teachers coming in and about 7,500 leaving, right? So that's still 30,000 net gain. So fast forward, that's in 2013. In 2012, that 25,000 and 2021, 22 was 6,000. In 2022, it bumped up a little bit, but even the latest data that we have is, so there's about, when there was 40,000 new teachers or people in education that were doing instruction, last year there was about 13,500. So that's a precipitous drop. And we don't even have data. We see that, so we see the number of new teachers declining, and we see the number of teachers leaving increasing. We don't even have data, but I could tell you, and any one of you guys know, that teachers have left this year in droves, right? I know in Bristol, we lost 8 teachers with about 400 years of experience. And if it's happening at Bristol, it's happening everywhere. And I know mostly every one of your districts. And so what I'm trying to get a circuitous route here. But Allison, you're going to the place and your expertise is going to help solve this problem, because Westchester, right? Westchester is the biggest teachers college. It's one of the most prestigious. And I hope that you bring that knowledge of what helped you with Samuel, what helped us go with Samuel Everett, what helped us go with Pearl Buck, what helped us literally purchase a building for the new Johnsville. And every one of those things was just an idea that probably wouldn't have happened without you being able to say to Dr. Hoffman and his teams, yeah, you can do it. And I'm going to show you how. So I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you can solve this problem for us. All right?
Well, thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
D'Angelo.
sir. Okay, public participation. Karen, did anybody walk in while I was pontificating? Okay, they didn't. Okay. All right. And so with that, we'll remind everyone that our next meeting will be Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, right here on our show. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mr. Walt, meeting adjourned.